Amos 5:18. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great most honorable well. And shalom to all the brothers doing the work, considering truth, pushing this word to the four corners, man. Hope for elect. Yeah. Kind of wanted to talk about how people, their minds now, bruv, they're all kinds of through. They're done out, man. They're fatigued. They're taxed. They're tapped out, man. They're ready to give in, man. And from from the onset of 2020 onwards, it's just been a cascading effect of non-stop battering upon the the masses. Because why? They've been trying and desperately dreaming of of basically some form of return to normalcy. But what they fail to understand is that's something that is done. Whatever they once understood or knew as normal is something that's never going to return. That's done. It's out the window. It's been thrown in the bin. The bin's been set on fire and then thrown out of the building, and then it's landed in the ocean and sunk to the bottom. It's done. Like now, it's basically what it's a now it's a race onto the kingdom, man. It's the last stretch onto the kingdom of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Harakakadash, gets established on the earth. And that's what you can see we're heading towards. So that's what, the masses are tapped out, they're drained, they're feeling distraught. It says what? It's on Yahoo News. Well, from the LA Times, it says, first pandemic, then recession, now Russia invades Ukraine. Anything else, world? So it says, like many and of course, all these things happening, people only care about it insofar as how it impacts their lives. Don't give a flying fuck otherwise. That's the reality. The reality is if when they can ignore it, when it's just they're hearing about 183 people getting blown up in in Baghdad, when they're hearing like in Yemen, a hospital got bombed, when you're hearing in the West Bank, some kids got blown up. It's just like, well, who gives a fucking shit about what happens in the middle of the fucking nowhere. But now that it's in the glorious Western world, then it's it's bringing terrors to the mind, man. They're trying to sleep. Like many Americans, Marsha Delgado has endured 2 difficult years. The 50-year-old watched vulnerable patients at Santa Ana Radiology Clinic struggle to recover from lung damage caused by C-19. She has clashed with patients who would not wear face masks. Oh man, that must be on the scale of what's going down in the Ukraine right now. Like I said, man, it's just about how this shit affects their lives, man. They just care about what what's happening to themselves. The world on a grander scale only really matters insofar as what they can get out of it. And that that vanity, that self-serving mentality, that basically the do as thou wilt mentality of Aleister Crowley that's really seeped in. That's like the bedrock of like all the modern kind of, especially post 60s. That's the bedrock of how everyone's minds are moving. They're basically looking at things like do as thou wilt, and they say what cause no harm. But what the how but if you're doing whatever the hell you want to do, of course you're gonna cause fucking harm. Anyway, so it says what and she has not attended a family gathering for months because some relatives refused to get tested for the V while she was being treated for metastatic breast cancer. As case rates began to fall, her stress finally started to ebb. Then Russia invaded Ukraine, and of course, it's only because it affects her stress. It's even an issue. Well, oh, fucking hell, that's funny as hell. But she was gonna be feeling fine, and then Russia invaded Ukraine. I saw the ugly side of humanity in the last few years, Delgado said. It's extremely frustrating. We're tired. The world is tired. We're tired of fighting each other. Well, evidently not, man, because a fucking invasion just happened. What the hell are you talking about? You just want to be able to enjoy your life. Just say that. With C-19 cases falling and mask rules easing, life seemed like it might soon return to normal. That normal, that ever-evasive normal that it just gets further and further away each time. That thread of hope was snapped late Wednesday when Russian troops attacked Ukraine, sparking fears of global conflict. A war in Eastern Europe and a looming humanitarian crisis have triggered fresh waves of anxiety and depression for Americans who have spent 2 years trying to survive an unprecedented period of instability, including a public health crisis, a recession, political upheaval, supply chain problems, and inflation. Yeah, so it's really looking like all kinds of hell is compacting together. And I'll continue on this. Amos 5:19. As if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into his house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. Man was moving from one terror and just escaped it. And then what? And further hells were there. There was no peace. There was no normal. And then afterwards, okay, let me go inside the house where I'm meant to be safe. Then all of a sudden, the gas prices started ratcheting up. And then he's having to leave, or you're fucking having a missile dropping in your house because you're in Ukraine. Yeah, and a serpent bit him. Because why? It's that ease, that peace is not going to be found. It's going to be continual discomfort right up to the judgment, man. And people are going to be clawing, fighting tooth and nail, so they can maintain their lives. They're going to be doing the utmost. Just says it in Matthew 24. As in the days of Noah, they were giving him marriage right up until he closed the door of the ark. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be people thirsting for that so-called normal, man. Shall not the day of the Lord Yahweh be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? Yeah, that's what's going down. Darkness. And as such, it's already a wrap, and this is a thing that the prophets know, but what the general masses, they're unaware. Says as pain, sadness, and confusion swept across social media Wednesday and Thursday, with people expressing shock and frustration at the unfolding crisis and mounting casualty count. Many said they felt powerless to help. People really think this. Okay. Some no people really like they got no capabilities. They don't know what's going on. This is the thing is, as far as that whole geopolitical situation didn't just spring up out of the fucking earth, a week ago, a few days ago. Like these events are basically a culmination of multiple events that happen over time, which people don't check the fucking news. All of a sudden, people care about geopolitical situations when that shit's been happening. It's like certain things I'll mention, people are like, "Oh, really? That happened?" I'm like, now and then, all of a sudden, like as soon as it's Ukraine, everyone's just like, "Oh, it's just the Ukraine situation." Blah blah. Because why? Because media's told them to care about it now. Yeah. Um. So it says some said they feared for the safety of the loved ones stuck in Ukraine, and this is where it's like people really only like are mindful of things they're told to by social media, by what whatever TV channels they were watching, whatever celebrities they follow, whatever influencers they might be on. Oh, that's all their you know where they take their their thought processes from. That's how they think about things. They're not looking into and researching. I don't even know if most people talking about this Ukraine situation have even read an article or looked into anything of how it ended up how it has. They've just seen titles, tweets, snapshots of articles, the header of an article on like Instagram or something. They don't know what the hell's going on, and that that ignorance, that blindness, is why this thing's gonna catch them like a thief, man. It's they're gonna get all tripped up, because why? They're not putting in, they're not looking or doing any form of research. They don't know what the hell's going on. Um. Others wondered whether the conflict 6,000 miles away from California could reach the US, then expressed guilt about those worries as Ukrainians fled the country and took shelter in subway stations to avoid Russian airstrikes. Others turned to dark humor as a coping mechanisms, just making potatoes while dread presses in from every direction, wrote John Green, the best-selling author of The Fault in Our Stars, and the caption of a cooking video he posted to TikTok at Anyway, Lawrence Pelinkas, a USC professor who studies mental health, noted that as individuals, we may be able to cope with any one of these events. Having to cope with all of them simultaneously is proving to be overwhelming for many people. Coverage of the onslaught could be particularly difficult for US residents who came to the country after fleeing conflicts in other countries. Coverage? What, US residents? What, for refugees? What the hell? Okay. But people really. I'm like, bro. This is the thing: is them refugees. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. They're gonna be aware that the world, is not cotton candy and rainbows, because they've come from the fucked up situation. Further fucked up things happening is not gonna be a mystery, because just because they've escaped a war zone, a situation, they don't then think, oh, that has now ceased to exist from happening. Because it was a reality for them, they're going to be aware, oh, it is a thing that's been going down. Because the fucking the simplicity of the people in the West, they're disconnected, man. They've not had it's that virgin daughter, man. It's untouched, especially for America. America's not had their soil touched by invasion. They ain't had men over there, um, you know, with AKs airdropping in to come fuck their shit. That hasn't occurred. So that's why it's like the people over there are really disconnected from these things. But it's like there's been hella people, especially because of how much fucking migration happens. Hella people from other parts of the world where they'll have been in those raw situations, and they'll come someone else and they'll be like, yeah, it's peak. People in like the 90s that was in after the fall of the Soviet Union, all the wars and whatnot and madness that went down in Eastern Europe. There's people that were in and around those areas, like, and then growing up. Then they grew up in the West afterwards, after seeing, like, you know, some people getting fucking blown up and shit. But that's why it's the people out here are disconnected from reality, man. They're really thinking everything's gonna, you know, sweet cotton candy rainbows. So it says, even dating back to the Vietnam War, who are likely to re-experience the kind of trauma that they endured prior to coming to the US, it is more common than it's ever been for clients to mention major news events like the pandemic and the conflict between Ukraine and Russia during sessions. Of course, because now those are things that are being reported in the media. No one gave a shit. Like, people cared about Syria for like 3 minutes, and that shit's still been going on since. That it's not been resolved. It's the same thing with you know, the state of Israel and Palestine situation, where them guys are, you know, blowing each other up and suplexing each other in the street. It was reported on when it spiked, and now it's again just been forgotten about. It's not been spoken about. uh Said Jeff Gunther, a therapist in Portland, Oregon, who runs a national therapist directory called Therapy Den. Everything that has happened in the last couple of years is bringing all our powerlessness to the forefront. Gunther said. Gunther reassured his more than 800,000 followers on TikTok on Thursday that if they feel overwhelmed, then there's so much tragedy, so much despair, so much unfairness. It's okay to have the very normal and healthy response, to just be consistent in your daily routine. And this nigga ain't got what the waffle nonsense, man. People are completely disconnected from reality, man. Hardship and trouble and fucked up shit happening. Those things are perfectly fucking normal within this hellscape that we live in. That's an expectation. People have just been blinding themselves to the truth. They think, you know, because they can get blackout drunk on the weekend, and, you know, and have some small portion of fun. They think, you know, that them having to grind and slave away for someone else is, you know, some form of great life, man, where they're building up someone else's wealth. You know, these things are the whole manner and way that people live in a society that they're completely confused, man. They're deluding themselves. As such, that's why it's like when reality's cranking in, man, reality's basically just pulled up and you know, like a missile dropping in someone's house, like fucking that Russian air superiority that is doing the business in Ukraine right now. Then what? They crumble, man. Second Ezra 16 and 18. The beginning of sorrows and verse 17 says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars and powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And that's the thing that people haven't been meditating on. They've not been thinking on. They're just seeing it. They're like a deer in headlights. It's shock. They're just like, oh, what was it? Being overwhelmed. What does it say? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. As a thing is, the warning, all the main warning is the watchmen, those that have been on the street corners, basically, you know, singing the song, man, pushing that truth out for the longest. It's telling of the times to come. So really, it's you know, the way the word's gone out, There's no, there's no excuse. But what uh, people are completely disconnected from reality. They've been able to just blind themselves to reality. But what it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. This is what we're in the midst of occurring. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing those warfare happening. You're seeing what like they mentioned, the inflation, energy crisis, the whole pandemic situation, and what you had Bill Gates teasing, doing a teaser trailer for saying there's going to be a worse pandemic to come. There's been myriad issues that have been culminating and hitting from every angle. People are not prepared. Their mind's already broken. And you can see for them, all they desire is what going back to normal. That's where that corona's going to come in. They're going to say, okay, the system, this what we're building up, this is the key. This is how you're going to get back. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yeah, Bashim Yeshua, Bashim Kakatash Pakata. Shalom.